Right, a very good evening to everyone and a warm welcome to tonight's special of Your Journey with Back of the Net. Delighted to say that I'm joined by three friends, two ex-Premier League professional legends and a current professional. Introductions will do themselves tonight, gentlemen. We've got Clint and Morrison with us. We've got Barry Hayles and we've got Giles Coke. Good evening, gents. How are we?
Evening.
Oh, it's right.
All good. All good. Apart from a little bit of technical difficulties at my end, all good. So, first things first, gents. Lockdown. What have we all been up to, and how have we been keeping busy? Barry, we'll start with you.
I've been doing a lot of DIY. I'm not the best at it. I'm not gonna say. So I'll turn my hand to that, and and taking over, trying to stay in shape and stay fit, really.
Okay. And Clinton, Giles, I mean, I'm privy to what you guys are doing at the minute because we've been in a lockdown workout group with each other, which has been going for about 5 or 6 weeks now. But aside from the banter that we've been having in the workout groups, what have you guys been doing? Clinton, we'll start with you.
Well, I'm like Baz. I'm not really. I can't do any housework because I'm useless at that. My house would fall down, so I'm not gonna lie. I've been trying to help out with the homeschooling. I'm struggling. I don't know what they're teaching these kids nowadays, but I'm not intelligent enough for that. So really and truly, I've just been like Barry, trying to keep fit. I had a lot of weight to put on. To lose, Frank. I'd put on a lot of weight, so I'm just trying to get fit, trying to trim down, trying to do my road runs, and just trying to keep busy. Because in times like this, you can mentally struggle, but I'm mentally trying to keep myself busy and active so I can be the lively person that I am.
That's great. And Giles, yourself?
Yeah, to be honest, I think everyone's going to be similar, aren't they? There's not a lot we can do. Just trying to find little chores to do around the house. Doing the garage. Yesterday, I blew up a paddling pool for my son. Took me ages. Then obviously we're doing our workout that we're trying to get Big Barry Hayles over there involved. If you'll ever turn up.
On that note, Baz, we've got these two gents with us at the minute. Come on, tell the truth, spill the beans. Why won't you join the lockdown workout group? What is it holding you back?
I have been running every day. I've been running every day, and I tend to finish running about 1, 2 o'clock, and that's when you guys start. So
no problem, Barry. We can change the time for you. No problem.
Okay, well, we can talk about that.
So that's a back of the net exclusive right there, Giles. Clinton, you're privy to that. Barry has said we'll change the time. Barry's in from Monday next week. That's it.
He's a machine anyway, Frank. He's a machine. He doesn't need to come in anyway. Baz is a machine.
Well, look, let's kick off tonight's show. So, just obviously give you guys a little bit of insight into Back of the Net's journey. Tonight we're just going to be talking through and discussing your three's journey, and sort of how that's developed you as a football player and as a person. Albeit I know that some things with the three of you guys are relatively similar in terms of your pathways, but with each of you there's something different, there's something interesting that obviously makes you. And we're just going to sort of delve into that a little bit. And I think that a good starting point tonight, Giles, would be with you, because I think that you've got quite a close connection to this show and what this show is about, because I think originally it was broadcasting and still is a lot about non-league football, and a lot of what the Back of the Net covers and a lot of what we feature on the show is all about the development and the journey of the non-league football player. And obviously your current professional background and sort of where things began for you, it started in non-league football, didn't it? So why don't you tell us and tell the listeners a little bit about the beginning of your journey as a pro in non-league and how it then stemmed on from there?
Yeah, well, I'll just go back a little bit further. I was at QPR as a scholar. I didn't get my pro, which I thought I was, to be honest. Ian Holloway was the manager, and I thought I was nailed on to get a pro, but back then when I was 15, 16, maybe looking back at it now, maybe it was my attitude wasn't maybe the best back then. So when I got released, it was a big reality check, really. When like I said, I really thought I was going to get a professional contract. So I had to drop down to non-league. Kingstonians gave me an opportunity. So I went down to Kingstonians. My brother was playing there at the time, and he said, "Listen, just come down. I can get you a trial there." So I went down there, trained. The manager really liked me, put me straight in, and literally I haven't looked back since then, because that journey of playing for Kingstonians really, from a boy, I became a man. And from then, I then went on to make, many league appearances after that. So I have to give it to non-league football for what it did to me personally. And yeah, like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I went on to make many appearances.
So it might be difficult for you to answer this, Giles, but sort of from your sort of experience coming from QPR and then obviously, as you've just described there, signing for Kingstonian, did you ever envisage or have it in your mind a time period of how long it would take you to get to professional football or to get that opportunity? Because you had a season, didn't you, at Kingstonian, and then you got your move to Mansfield. So, I mean, how did it feel when you were playing in non-league football and you were someone that was aspiring to be higher? And tell us about that part of your journey at Kingstonian.
Yeah, well, definitely, because like I said, when I left QPR, it was a big reality check. I thought I was going to get a pro there, and I didn't. So mentally, it really affected me. So when I got an opportunity to go down to non-league and playing men's football, it really it gave me a lift, and it made me very determined to get back and proving a lot of people wrong. So that year, I really did work my socks off, and I wanted to get back as soon as possible. So I did do a lot of extra work, a lot of extra running with my brother and a few friends to try and, get one better, get fitter, get stronger. We did ball work in the park because I was really determined to make it as a professional footballer after I'd got that knockback from QPR.
Yeah.
So yes, as that season progressed in my first season at Kingstonians, I was working so hard and I was really playing very well, which I got a lot of media coverage from scoring goals. I then became the captain. And then, like you said, I went on to have a trial. Have a trial with Mansfield. But before the Mansfield, I had a trial with Stoke.
Right.
So I went to Stoke for 2 weeks. But my luck, as I went there on my first day in the warm-up, before I even touched any balls, I slipped because I wasn't used to that nice surface. Their pitch was lovely. I was used to the parks in non-league.
Right.
But yeah, it was beautiful, the Stoke training ground. And I slipped in the warm-up and I did my medial. And I was out for 6 weeks. So the trial just completely went. I went back to Kingstonians, got fit, played a few games, I think I did. And then I got a trial with Mansfield, with Colton Palmer. And I was there for a 2-week trial. So the first week, he bedded me in with training. The second week, I then played a reserve game on the Tuesday. And literally on the Saturday, he started me straight away on a non-contract. Bristol Rovers away. I'll always remember it. 3-3. And it was a great experience, to finally become a professional footballer.
So, I mean, you boast a number of big clubs, Giles. Obviously from coming from non-league football and that background, and then going into professional football. I mean, we've talked about Mansfield. You've got Northampton, Scottish football in Motherwell, and obviously Clinton will share some insight into the time that you guys had together at Sheffield Wednesday as well. Out of all of the clubs that you played for in the entirety of your football journey, is there any standout moments in there for you? Is there anything in there that you sort of look back on that is of real note in your journey?
Yeah, I've had a few good moments. For Mansfield, I scored in the FA Cup against Southampton, which was quite a big thing for me. We knocked them out of the FA Cup, so that was a big highlight for me. The next after that, I would say, is probably moving on and signing for Sheffield Wednesday, because when I signed for Sheffield Wednesday, that really, playing in front of 30,000 fans for the first time in my career, that was really a wow. I've made it as such, because everyone, as young growing up, I'm sure if you ask a lot of kids, they would say their dream is, one, to be a professional footballer, but also they want to play in front of as many people as they can to show off their ability. And for me to have that opportunity to play for Sheffield Wednesday for 5 years was a very special moment for me.
I mean, I was almost reluctant to ask you this, Giles, just because I know you, and I don't want this discussion and what we're going to be talking about tonight to sort of draw on too many negative aspects or connotations of our journeys, but it's all relevant, I guess, to you as individuals. There are things that make up your journeys and that make them so unique. And obviously something that stands out for you personally is how injuries prevented sort of succession for you, shall we say, and a bit of consistency. For people that might be listening to the show tonight that either come from a similar background to you, they've been involved in non-league football and had opportunities at pro level, what sort of advice can you give in terms of how you handle that? Because it's your body, right? And no one intends to get injured, but it has become a big aspect in terms of your personal journey. And how did you find sort of dealing with that? Because at the minute we're all experiencing lockdown, and I think that we'll all agree that mentally it's quite difficult. It's sort of teaching us to sort of mental skills and how to sort of go about things, living a completely different life. I can kind of see a little bit of a similarity or a parallel in terms of someone like yourself that suffered some injury setbacks and how you're then supposed to go about your day to day as a professional footballer. So how has that been for you, and sort of how have you managed to work through those stages in your career when you've been sidelined with injury?
Yeah, it's been, I think everyone knows that I've had, quite a few bad injuries in my career. And when you have bad injuries and you're not training, you're not around the boys every day on the pitch, mentally it can really affect players. And it did affect me. It affected me on a number of occasions. But I always look at it in a way where, okay, I need to get back quickly. You need to do the work. You want to get. It's another way of looking at it is, I'm going to come back stronger. I'm going to come back fitter. I'm going to come back better in every department. And I think what made me a person that I'm today was from being injured so much. Because when I had injuries, I was out for 6 months. I was out for a year. I was out for another 6 months, another year. And these are long times out of football.
Yeah.
So mentally, I was very determined. I had good people around me. That always helps. When you've got your family backing you and your partner, that helps because they keep you going and they keep you striving for success. And I always wanted to get back as quickly as possible. And I think on the flip side of that, my downfall was probably so determined to get back. I probably, in a few of the occasions, I came back too early because I wanted to get back. I was eager, ready to go, fired up, rather than taking that week or two to completely get completely get right. But yeah, like you said, it's mentally, it was very tough. I managed to deal with it my whole career, come back stronger, and I'm very grateful for the career that I have had and that I'm having at the moment.
Clinton and Barry, obviously, for the sort of purpose of the show tonight, I should have said this at the beginning to give you guys a bit of insight, but feel free to sort of jump in, and if there's any questions between the four of us that we feel like could be asked at any point, then feel free to say anything, because I don't want it to seem like we're going to work through everybody sort of individually, which we are. That's the way the show works. But like I say, feel free to jump in, because I think that we could all benefit from it.
Frank, what I will say, because you'll come on to me and we'll be talking about me, and obviously we'll do Barry. What I will say with Giles, not just because he's a friend and stuff like that. I'm in your camp. I think I went to Sheffield Wednesday, and obviously I'm coming there with a big personality from the career I've had. So you're always going to get people wanting to ask you questions. First time I come in, he'll come in. And I know I joke about him that he asks too much questions, but he wanted to improve. On the first day in training, I seen him and I said, boy, this guy can play. Giles knows, because I've told him this many a time, he should have played at a much higher level than he did play. He's two-footed, he's gracious. The way he drives with that foot, I didn't know what foot it was. I had to keep asking him, what foot are you, left or right foot? So I'm going to praise him here because I always give him a lot of stick. I think he should have had a better career than what he did have. Listen, he's had a really good career, but he could have even played at a higher level for a long time. And that's through luck and also injuries, as you just pointed out. I think injuries kind of killed him, but I think he's had a really good career, but he could have had a better career because I think he's an exceptional talent. When I went to Sheffield Wednesday, I was surprised how good he was. I didn't really know a lot about him, but he's a really good player. But that's enough of me talking about Giles. That's him. He's had his 5 minutes of me praising him.
Thanks, Clint. Clint, I'll bank transfer that straight to you, yeah?
No worries, mate.
No worries. Well, Clint, that ties us in quite nicely to you. You know, listen, it's well documented in football, isn't it? Jesus, I think that this lockdown period, I think I've seen your face on Sky more than I've seen in your actual career.
You're right, mate.
Let alone from anything else. But you know, like I say, go back to that. Listen, you're a well-recognised football player. You know, you've had a fantastic career playing for some big teams. Obviously, I know that there's been some special moments for you at Crystal Palace and some other clubs. But I want to relate your journey specifically to your personality, because I think that when we think of a footballer's journey, I think that some of the connotations attached to that are quite obvious. We're talking about appearances, goals, the different clubs you played for, players that you played with, all those sorts of typical stories. But I want to try and make yours unique to your personality, because I'm looking at this coming from me knowing you and having sort of trained with you a little bit, and having got to know you a lot more as a person, and then how I then translate how I see you as a bloke to your football career. You know, and I think that everybody has always kind of seen you as a bit of a cheeky chap, you know, always got a smile on his face. There's always a better side of life, and that whole persona.
Yeah.
How did people treat you as a football player? Because you broke into professional football the more conventional way, right? We've talked about Giles. He sort of broke through from non-league football and got his opportunity into pro. But you came through the academy ranks at Crystal Palace, and then you signed your first pro forms at your. So that persona, that personality that you have today, was that always there? And how did people react to that when you first broke through?
Yeah, to be fair, my journey's it's a mad one. But I remember being at Tottenham from 14 to 16. I was there a long time at Tottenham, and I got comfortable. I thought I'm easy going to get YTS forms. And then when it came to it at 16, they'd brought in another striker. And the striker they brought in, they said they're going to sign him and release me. So I didn't really want to play football. And I just said, I'm giving it up. I'm not bothered anymore. My mum. James Bunn. He didn't even make it in the end, Baz. He didn't even make it. James Bunn. But my mum, who everyone knows about my mum, Barry will know definitely, and Giles will know about my mum, and everyone knows about my mum. She said, no chance. I've took you everywhere since you were with Frank as well. From the age of 9, 8, you've been I've been on your journey with him. You're not giving up now. So she rang Peter Nicholas, the old youth team manager at Crystal Palace, and said, I'm bringing Clint. Can Clinton come down for a trial? And he said, yeah, come for a trial. So I went for the trial, scored a hat-trick, and the rest is history. But what made me laugh is after a year being at Palace, Tottenham then rang me back and said, would I come back there as a scholar? And I said, nah, no chance. I've got more because the person who they signed wasn't good enough and they were ready to release him. So, sometimes in football, things happen for a reason. And that was a good reason for me. And then I made my debut at 17 at Crystal Palace, and the rest is history. But everyone knows about my career, and everyone knows what I'm like. Barry will tell you, Giles will tell you. I always get portrayed as a big mouth, which I was a big mouth. I'm not going to lie. But that's the way I was as a person, because deep down, if you don't know me that well, I am actually shy. But when you get to know me, it will just come out, and then everything will flow out. But Baz in particular will tell me, because there's probably times where he's probably thought, he's Clinton, he's got a big mouth and rare, but he knows a lot of people that I know, and Sean Davis and that have known me for years, and they'll say, that's just the way Clinton is. He's not a bad person. Generally, inside, he is a good person. He just loves the game. And that's just the way I was, Frankie. I had to go on that pitch and be a bubbly person, because if I weren't bubbly or confident in myself, I wouldn't go on the pitch and perform. So that's just how I used to come about myself. I used to watch players like Ian Wright and just say, I like his attitude. I like the way he scores goals and stuff like that. And even, I tell you what, I watched Baz, because towards the latter end of my career, Barry Hayles, you look at Barry Hayles and everyone was like, oh, Barry Hayles is small and he can't hold the ball up. I learned how to hold the ball up from Barry Hayles because Barry would get his body in, and as a defender, if you get too tight, he'll just roll you or he could spin you either side and pull it in the net. So I always watched other strikers and learned how to, you know, improve my game. I was always willing to improve my game because I knew once I got to a certain age, I couldn't run in behind anymore because that was my game, Frankie, running in behind. I had to change it up and be the hold-up man, and someone younger beside me would be the one to run in behind. So I think anyone listening to this and wants a bit of advice, you always got to keep learning from people. I never thought, even now, I'm still learning now and I'm retired, Frankie. I watch football all the time. I'm gutted at the moment it's not on, but I'm always learning from other people. And I never think, I did when I was younger, thought I was too good. I thought I was better than I was. And there's a few mistakes I've made in my career, but I look back now and think to myself, I've had a good career. From where I've come from in Wandsworth growing up, Frankie, you will know we used to go to the Wandle Recreation Centre and play football. Yeah. Jamie Lawrence would put on sessions and stuff like that. So I've come a long way. So I'm just happy where I am in my life at the moment. And I just want to inspire young kids.
Clint, can I just ask a quick question there?
Yeah.
So would you say that's the difference between, you know, the top players, that they keep improving, they keep learning, rather than someone who, like you said, you had an unbelievable career, you know, definitely. And I would have loved to have copied the career you had, and Barry. Yeah. But the difference between, you know, I don't know, the De Bruyne's and those sort of players, what do you think that's a big factor?
Definitely. They're on a different level, De Bruyne. He's probably the best midfielder in the world at the moment. But you can see, I speak to people that are coaching these people and always asking people, can I come in and watch training and stuff like that? I've never been to Man City, but they train how they play. That's always I've been told, train how you play. And Roy Keane was the person who told me that you can't train how you want to train during the week and then expect to just turn up on a Saturday. It's not going to work like that. You have to. I wanted to win every five-a-side, every keep ball session in training. I'd get the hump. People would hear me shouting and they go, oh, look at Clint shouting again. No, I want to win. Even now, if a group of us, all of us went and we played a five-a-side against another team, I'd say, Giles, Barry, Frank, come on. I don't want to lose this game. But I still got that hunger in me. I was always told, train how you play. You can't turn it on. And I think the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, you look at the Sterlings, that's why their game's gone to a different level. They've got someone like Pep Guardiola who wants them to train at their elite all the time. So I'm always here learning. Even now when I do media stuff, I'll be at the game and I'm watching the game live. I'm watching Sergio Aguero's warm-up. I'm watching one of the best strikers in the world's warm-up. And even though I'm not playing, I want to pass on my judgment to my kids or to other youngsters of what I'm learning. So you always have to keep learning. But yeah, Giles, I think nowadays, it's changed a lot. The level of football's so much higher and stuff like that. So we would have to change, me and Barry probably around the same age. You're a bit younger than us, but we would have to change how we go about things nowadays. And we would have to train even harder to fit into those sort of teams. But you never stop learning, but you always have to train how you play.
You raised an interesting point there, Clint, actually. And this is off the cuff here, actually. I think this is the nice thing about these debates and these interviews, you know, it can go in any direction. What you said there about learning from other players, right? So all three of you guys, you know, obviously Clint and Barry, you finished your professional careers. Giles, you're still going through yours, but you've all been in that similar, that same environment, and you've all discussed and admitted that you've learned from other people different ways. Are we seeing a change in football now in terms of how you can learn from people? Because my perception of things is that in the era for Clinton and Barry, when you played, you guys, as you did there, you can reference people that you learned from, people that helped you along the way but we all get the opinion now that football is more privatized. You know, players are more private. There doesn't seem to be this sort of willingness to help your team out or help people through things. I'm not saying that that's definitely what happens. I just think that we get that stigma and that sort of sentiment from football now that maybe social media influences that. You know, people have got all these other distractions going on. Is that something that young players now aren't getting? You know, are they not getting the same help and advice, that personal contact that you guys got? Or is that just something that we misconstrue because of the way that social media and the media portray certain things?
No, you know what I'd say? I'd say the youngsters are still getting advice and help without a shadow of doubt. You probably go somewhere like Liverpool, we've got Jurgen Klopp. he always brings the youngsters, I heard, in together with the first team, and some of them go and train, and they can go and ask any of the first team players for advice. So I still think that is a big thing in football, Frankie, without a shadow of a doubt. I can't speak for Barry and Giles, but me personally speaking to other players who are still playing the game, they're always willing to help the youngsters and help their knowledge. And I needed it when I was a youngster from experienced players. So I still believe the youngsters now need it. And listen, sometimes the youngsters nowadays, they all think they've made it and don't want to listen, and they think they know it all. They do think they know it all, and Barry will agree with me. They do think they know it all, and that's the ones who struggle and don't make it, and the ones who do listen will go on to have a successful career.
You won't get a youngster now asking questions. You won't get a young player going to pro saying, "How can I change this? How can I change my game?" And that. If a player stays out on the pitch and does extra work, people look at him thinking, why are you doing that? And they wouldn't go and join it. Like, I'm going back to Fulham. When Van der Sar came, he was the last player off the pitch, working on his left foot, goal kicks and that. And he already won the European trophy already. He comes to Juve, so he already been there, done it. And that was my mindset, watching him thinking, he don't have to do that. He's already been there, but he knows he can go higher, he can get better. And look, he went on to play for Man United.
So what's changed then, gents? What's changed young players' perception of wanting to learn? A
lot of them think they already made it because of maybe the money they've already been paid at a young age.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, if I'm getting that, I've already made it. Not thinking, how can I improve myself? How can I get better?
Yeah, Baz is right. You got to earn the contract. I mean, earn that contract. Nowadays, they're getting given big money, Frankie. Giving it. They're not earning.
I heard there's some players that are at Chelsea and they've never played they haven't even gone on loan anywhere. They haven't made an appearance for Chelsea. And I don't know if this is true, but I've heard some of the youngsters are on 10 grand a week. Now, some of the players, for example, myself, I've never earned 10 grand a week in my whole career. So, and I've made over 300 appearances. So this is crazy how someone who's only 18, 19 can be earning this, in my opinion, this sort of money without really being proven.
Listen, if they're going to offer me 10 grand at that age, Frankie, everyone in there, we ain't going to say no. We're going to bite the hand. But at the same time, once you earn that money, you got to work hard. You can't say, I'm going to sit at Chelsea for 6-7 years and just say, because I'm on that money, I'm playing at Chelsea. You got to get out on loan. And if that means going on loan, playing in League One, League Two, go and play men's football. But much of the youngsters nowadays get given on a play and don't want to work hard for it. And they sit there and say, you know what, I'll play under 23 football and be a star there. But that's not going to improve you. Go and play men's football so you're ready to come back. And maybe you can challenge for the first team or you can challenge for whatever. Do you know what I mean? Move on and go play men's football. It's totally different nowadays.
So this conversation, this sort of little avenue that we've gone down here ties us in to something that I didn't know, Clinton, about you actually, and just doing some research. But when you first broke into Crystal Palace's first team in those sort of first 3 or 4 seasons, you played for free, didn't you? When the club went into administration, you willingly and opted to play for nothing.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, I wasn't on huge money, so it was kind of easy. I kind of got the other senior pros who had to pay mortgages, that had family. They didn't want to do it. And in the end, some of them left, and that's how I got my opportunity to break into the first team through Crystal Palace going into administration. But I just thought the club who gave me my opportunity, who helped me out, and I always knew the chairman would back me. When we got out of an administration, he would reward me with a very good contract, and he did do that. So sometimes in football, if you stay loyal to someone will reward you at the end. Listen, there's not always loyalty in football, but I just knew my chairman at the time would reward me, and he did when we come out of it. But no, I just thought it was something I had to do for my football club. They're the club. It made me become a professional footballer. I had 9.5 great years at Crystal Palace. So at that moment in time, a lot of people, my friends, were like, "You're crazy." I was like, "Nah. I'm thinking here. I'm thinking outside the box here. In the end, I will get rewarded." But I also did do it for Crystal Palace Football Club, and I think a lot of the fans were like they kind of took to me then, and that's why they obviously called me now a legend at the club because of the things I've done at the club and stuff like that. But I thought it was me being genuine, and from the kindness of my heart, I thought it could help the club at that precise time.
When you look at again, we sort of already kind of mentioned this on on tonight's show, but when you look at a journey or a story, it's got a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? That's how we all see it, and then you take the segments and fractions from that journey. Sometimes it's linear, it's just straight line, beginning, end. Sometimes non-linear, it jumps back and forward. You've had 2 stints at Palace, Clint.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, you're still involved in football with the media side of things.
Yeah.
Is there one comment that came from somebody that had sort of tweeted in this week when I put out the post advertiser show? Someone asked me to ask you if the reason behind your sentiments towards Crystal Palace might mean that there's a pathway for you to go back and work at the club at some point in the future in another aspect of football, and is that something that you'd be interested in?
Yeah, I've already been asked to help out in the academy, but I'm enjoying my media stuff too much. Listen, I do enjoy the coaching. I love the coaching. I've done my B. I'm going to go and do my A when this is all over and finish off my A license, because I feel like I want to coach. Listen, I don't ever want to be a manager. I'll put it out there. I don't think I've got the temperamental skills to be a manager, but I would rather be a first team coach or assistant, because I still like to interact with the players. I like to be the middleman where players can come and talk to me. I'll go to the manager. The manager could come to me. I can talk to the players and relay it to them. So, yeah. But it's something I definitely want to do. But just at the moment, Frankie, my media stuff's going really well. I thoroughly enjoy talking about the football. I love football. I'll enjoy it until the day I die. But it is something, yeah, I think eventually one day I probably could be doing something at Crystal Palace in coaching. But at the moment, I'm really enjoying the media side.
Good. Well, Bazza, I mean, it brings us on to you as the last player in our little trilogy tonight in the journey. For the listeners that already know, you and I work together currently at Morrison, but sort of starting or further back, or sort of starting back in terms of your career, similar to Giles. You kicked things off in non-league football. Just as an introduction for everybody tonight that might not know your backstory, tell us the moment from when you were playing non-league football and then you got your opportunity at your first professional club.
Yeah, well, I started at Stevenage. I was at Stevenage for about 6 years. I wasn't always a striker initially. I played fullback, played midfield, and then the manager pushed me up front. I scored in one game, and then I came back from a ban, 2-game ban, and then I stayed up front, and the rest is, as they say, history. Yeah, I went from Stevenage to Bristol Rovers, from being bought for 250,000 a year later to be sold for 2 million quid was a bit of a whirlwind, and it kind of took me back from a lad born in Stockwell to make that journey to be priced at so much in a short space of time.
When we talk about the journeys that we have done tonight, listen, and again, gents, forgive me, we could talk for hours about all three of you, and we could break each club down, and we could talk about success, and we could unravel stories about players and managers that we've all played with. But these are all questions that I'm sure you guys have all been asked before. But for Bazza, for you, one thing that sort of stands up for me, and when we talk about achievements, I think if we, as a fan or as a spectator, you look at football now and you look at that moment where a championship club gets promoted to the Premier League. And I'm just going to sort of pluck that one out as something that all of us can kind of relate to as a supporter, as a lover of football, right? We can all recall the moments in the teams that have played at Wembley in the final or whatever. They've got to a playoff final and then they clinch it and they're the team that goes up. But you've experienced that firsthand. That's always been something that for me as a football lover and as a fan, I've always thought.
That's why I wore the top for you. Right.
That's very full of shit.
But you know what I mean, guys? Clint, Giles, I'm sure. Listen, you guys have achieved fantastic things as well, right? But I'm saying that there are certain moments in football, winning leagues, winning titles, golden boots, all that sort of stuff, right? But I've always kind of handpicked that moment for a championship team that gets promoted into the Premier League, because we hold the Premier League on this pedestal, right? It's the highest level of football. What was it like?
It was magnificent. Being a part of it, playing in a team and a squad that was was probably not fit to really be up there. Come the latter part of the season, and big games stand out, and scoring 20 goals in that season, and finishing with, I think we finished with 102 points that year, and to cross the line near the end, we crossed the line getting a draw. I remember it against, I think it was Coventry or someone. We needed a point, and we got a point. And the celebration after was absolutely magnificent. And being a part of that, and being a part of that journey from where Fulham came from in League One to get to the Premiership was absolutely magnificent.
Tell us about the night out after.
It was blurry for Baz. It was blurry.
Yeah, as blurry as my video was when we first started trying to do this interview tonight.
Barry, who was the best strike partnership you had with?
I had great partnerships throughout the season. I mean, throughout my career. But the best player, he was a striker. But my best player I played with was Louis Sahar. Okay. He was the best player, as in everything. Great in the air, good feet, pace, skill. And in training, the things he done in training, I'll be like, Louis, keep it for Saturday because you're ripping the boys. Oh, seriously. So it was no shock when you came for him and that. But I had great partnerships with Jamie Curtin as well when we were at Bristol Rovers and that, when we was in League One. Jason Roberts, who had a stint with Robo as well. So yeah, Danny Diccio as well. So I had some a good partnership with that.
Well, let's kind of not completely wrap things up on tonight's journey topics, but let's sort of finish up slightly with a question for all three of you. It goes back to breaking into professional football, right? So we talked about you guys, Clinton, obviously through the academy, Barry and Giles through non-league football. How do other professional football players and other people in the professional game perceive you when you've come from those two different backgrounds? So what I mean is, Clinton, you've come through the academy ranks. We said it's more conventional. You know, you were at Crystal Palace. You were known to Palace. You knew the environment, and then you got your break and you signed your forms. How did people treat you as opposed to Clinton and Barry, where you've done things the unconventional way? You've been a non-league football player, and it's almost like, in my mind, professional footballers kind of look down on you a little bit and kind of think, not what's he doing here, but you know what I'm trying to get at. It's the stigma attached to both, and how do those two things differ? How do people see you?
I don't think, because I came through the academy, I look at the boys who have come from non-league and look at them, and I applaud their achievement even more, because when you're playing at non-league, sometimes you can't see at the end of that tunnel if you're going to make it as a professional or play professional game. So I applaud the ones who have come from non-league massively. Going back to an academy, my son's in an academy now. And you know what I'd rather probably do now? And it sounds strange. The academy now is big pressure on these young kids. I want these young kids now to enjoy their football, play grassroots, and then come in when you're 15, 16, when you're ready. I just feel now I look at him, and sometimes it's a struggle, and he's so good, he's so talented, but it's a struggle to get him out of the house because he trains 4 nights a week, plays on a Sunday, so he has no chance to be a child. So at the moment, the academy's just taking over his life. I want him to have the time where he can go and play with his friends on a Saturday and a Sunday, play at grassroots, and then maybe come again at 15 or 16. Listen, everyone's different. Everyone wants their son to be a professional footballer if you were a professional football. But don't force it. But that's the biggest advice I'd give to someone. Don't force it. Let it gradually. Encourage your son to do whatever he wants to do. And eventually he will make it. But don't force the pressure on your son. In the early years, I used to force the pressure on my son. And he started going the other way, where he started disliking football. So you've got to just keep encouraging your son. And remember, he's a child. Let him enjoy it.
Baz and Giles, your experiences of breaking into pro football from did you see other people treat you differently?
Yeah, I got a short story to say. When I signed for Fulham, and I got given my training gear, there was an ex-pro. He played for Palace. He was a winger. I don't need to mention his name in there.
Oh.
I'm walking down the corridor. On the very first minute at the training ground, I've got the kit man walking down the corridor. I see him coming up towards me, so I'm getting ready to say hi, and he walks past me 5 steps, then turns around and says hi, and carried on walking. And that's like, wow, I know who you are. I've seen you play. Is that? And then I went and I found the change room, and the boys were, oh, come in, sit down, and that. It was different. And me and that guy, we became roommates. So I brought up to him. I said, why would you do that? And he went, well, I didn't recognise you. I said, well, you would have read that we just bought a new striker for an X amount. Surely I've got a kit in my hand. And he went, well, he tried to play it down. But so that was an experience which I didn't really like. And I felt that I would never be in a change room and see a new player come in and not go over and say hi. I'm not thinking, oh, what's your name? So that was my experience.
Giles, did you experience any elitism in professional football?
I don't think I did, because
coming from a non-league background.
I don't think I did as much as the other two, because my steps were once I went from non-league to Mansfield. Yeah, the jump was quite big, but it was League Two. So if anything, that would be the only one I'd say. Maybe the League Two players, when I joined Mansfield, might be thinking, well, who's this guy? You know, he's come from Ryman Prem, and he's coming to take my place. Like, he's rubbish, sort of thing. So, like I said, I had to really, prove myself and show that I was just as good as these players that had played an X amount of league appearances. And that's obviously why I went straight into the team to play many games. But after that, I then got bought from Northampton. So, I think Mansfield was a platform where I really started to establish myself as a professional footballer, which then put me on the grounds where I got bought for 80 grand from Northampton. So then straight away people are thinking, well, we bought this player. So then I've already kind of got that respect from my fellow players. Do you know what I mean, Frank?
Yeah.
And then obviously again, I went on to Sheffield Wednesday. Sorry.
No, go on, Giles.
Sorry. And then I went on to Sheffield Wednesday after coming from Motherwell. And again, that might have been a bit of a jump, because people might have, started saying, well, Scottish football's this, Scottish football's that. Is he really good enough to come to a big club like Sheffield Wednesday when he's been playing for Motherwell? So again, that might be another stage where I had to go in there when I played with Clinton, Neil Mellor, Darren Potter, Tudguy, some players that I've been watching my whole career because I love football. So I was a little bit starstruck when I first signed for Sheffield Wednesday. Like I said, that was when I really thought, you know what, I've actually made it, because I'm playing with the likes of Clint and Morrison, Tudguy, and these players that are really, really good footballers that I always look up to learn from. And like you said, Clinton said earlier that he didn't even know who I was, not in a disrespectful way, but he didn't, because I'd come from, lower clubs where people may not have known much about me. So again, I had to prove myself to these players to show them that I was as good as some of them at staying at that level and competing with them. Yeah.
Well, gents, this kind of brings us to the end of the show. I'm regretful to say it's been fantastic having you three on tonight, and it's been really interesting listening to your background. And as I said during the middle part of the show, we could take this conversation as far as we all wanted to go with it. There's so much more to it, obviously, but I want to thank you three for being on tonight. I only want to sort of finish on something which kind of encapsulates this whole topic of your journey, right? So we're going to play a little game. All right, it's going to last a minute each. So, Clinton, you know what my minutes are like.
Your minutes are too long, Giz.
Yeah. Right, I've got a stop clock here. Right, so the game is, we'll start with you, Baz. Right, I want you to picture the scene where you either made it as a professional, so the in the room when you signed your first contract, or the first phone call that you got, or that phone call that you got to tell you that you were gonna sign, the manager was going to take you on. And I want you to picture a scene where you're able to go back to that young Barry Hayles right? That young fresh-faced Bazza. You can go back there and you can spend a minute with him and you can give him all the advice and information that you feel like he would benefit from and need in that 1 minute. And I want you to pretend that I'm young Barry, right? So I'm getting into character now. I'm that young Baz, and you've got a minute. What would you say to yourself at that moment? You ready?
Yeah.
Right, guys, Clint and Giles, I want you two to critique Barry at the end. We'll see how he gets on with it. You've only got a minute, and I'm going to be strict with it. Ready? Go.
I would say you got to be more confident. You got to be more outspoken. You tend to look at yourself as glass half empty, and that was my career in a nutshell. So I'll say to you've got to believe in yourself a little bit more than you do. You tend to do stuff and just get by, and if you push yourself a bit more, you can achieve a whole lot more. And in hindsight, things you've done off the field as well, you could address a whole lot better too.
We've only got 20 more seconds, Baz.
But yeah, no. On a whole, in a nutshell, you have more confidence in yourself and your ability, and push yourself a little bit more, and don't just reach the level you get to, and don't push yourself no more.
53 seconds. That was good. Giles, I'm coming to you next, Clint, and we're going to finish with you. Giles, so you're meeting that young Giles Coke not that long ago, to be fair. What, you 33?
It feels like a long time ago.
Okay. So that moment, you can picture the scene. You've got to give that younger self a minute's advice. Let's go.
Okay, what I'd say is enjoy yourself. Have that, a bit similar to Barry, have that self-belief. You know, don't listen too much to other people. Go and play with confidence, freedom. And I think a lot of footballers, young footballers these days, are scared to give the ball away. They're scared to take risks. I think it doesn't matter if you make a mistake. Keep going, keep trying. You know, so I definitely say to him, take risks, try that pass, try that shot. Really try and fulfill your potential as much as you can by giving 100% all the time in everything you do. The other thing maybe I'd say is, if you ever get injuries like I have, always get right first. You know, don't rush yourself to try and get back quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Get yourself right 100% so you can go again, because you don't want to break down again.
Yeah. 100%.
56 seconds, Giles.
Good work.
Hang on. Right,
Frankly, mine will be 20 seconds.
I was going to say, mate, we've only got a minute.
Okay. What I would say to myself.
Start your clock, go.
What I would say to myself is, don't be too confident. And the biggest problem I had, I think, in football was I like to argue too much with my coaches and with my players on the football pitch. I think I have to respect my coaches and players a bit more. If a player tells me I'm not doing the business, then listen and put your hand up. Don't go into a full-scale argument on the football pitch. And then also at halftime, when your managers are there to help me. So you got to listen to your managers. You might not agree with it, but don't call them out in front of everybody, because that's disrespectful. If that means the manager's losing the dressing room, you're disrespecting the manager in front of him. And I'll probably say, people would say I was confident. I should have been a bit more confident. Like when I went and played with Ireland, probably been more confident. Felt like I should have been there with some of the top players and stuff. So always believe in yourself, because I'm a professional footballer. I've done it the hard way, but I've made it. So believe in myself. And yeah, you can walk the walk and talk the talk and keep probably being yourself. But the big thing I would say is always show respect to my managers, because sometimes I was a bit too disrespectful. And that's the biggest regret I have in football.
Minute 2.
See, I knew I was talking too much there.
Shot Clinton went overtime.
No.
And he says he's got to be more confident. The younger Clint, be more confident. Well, guys, I think, Baz, I'll speak on your behalf. I'm looking forward to these two coming back to pre-season at Mersham, whenever that is.
I'm involved.
Because we know Clint plays for free. You done it at Palace.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll play for free, mate. You know, if I'm around, I'm playing.
Guys, listen, fantastic having all three of you on the show tonight. Obviously, if any of the listeners that have been tuning in tonight have got any questions, if there's anything that I can put to you three guys, having knowing you, and we can try and get those answers back to you on social media or on a platform somewhere, then we will. And it would be brilliant to have you guys back in some sort of capacity in the future. And hopefully you guys enjoyed it as much as I did, and hopefully everybody listening enjoyed it as well.
Cheers, brilliant.
Yeah, cheers,
mate.
Thanks for having me.
Nice one.
Cheers, everyone.